Welcome everybody, Juan here, and today we're going to go to the very last video of this whole Power Query series that I've been building. In the previous videos, actually multiple of them, we went from a table that looks like this with returns, product ID, and some months, into a table that looks like this. So the table looks much better. But we also check here in the advanced editor and we just modify at least two chunks of the code to make sure that we never need to update the actions that we did here on Power Query. This is as dynamic as it gets. But in reality, it could be much more dynamic because now the transformations that we did on this table are almost the same that we want to do here. So what can we do to have one script that cleans both of these spreadsheets? We could, of course, just copy this one right here, open it up, maybe I think all the way from here, right? So yeah, all the way from here. Now this has some errors, but that's okay. Let me just replace some of the references that are broken. So here this reference was broken. Here I need to add a comma. And it works, but it wasn't really a very clean solution. I could have introduced quite a lot of errors and it didn't look that nice. What exactly did I do? If this would have been a much more complicated script, chances are I would have messed it up. So maybe let's just remove all of these steps that I did. So delete until the end. Yes. Let's go back to the table that we had, just this particular table. And let's keep on working on this script to make it even more dynamic. What are the things that we noticed that we needed to change? Well, one of these is, are we calling the return sheet? Or so firstly, return sheet right here, and the second or third line, third line. And also the fact that I'm calling what comes out of my unpivot returns. I probably want to call this something different. It's okay. So in order to accomplish this, we are going to create a function. Now, a function is any type of, it's a very useful technique every time there is some sort of code you want to run multiple times. To create a function in Power Query is just a matter of adding these little symbols right here, just empty brackets and an arrow looking, so like the equal plus equal bigger than, and then you just introduce your code. Now this is the most easy and the most useless type of function out there. Let me just click on this. And now look what happens to the whole thing. I don't see my table anymore. I just see some parameters, something called invoke, and now my returns looks like a function instead of a table. If I click on invoke, I'm going to get the table exactly how we had it, but this is not very useful, right? Because we're only returning the returns table, no pun intended. So what we can do is once again go to the advanced editor and add some more parameters. Maybe we want something like let's sheet name, right? And this one, let's just leave it like this, no other things. And now I have this optional parameter called sheet name. What happens if I don't want to make it optional? Well, if you don't want to make it optional, you need to specify what type of data it is, and it can be as date, as text, as number. Just adding a clarification of what exactly you're expected what exactly you're expecting. I think we can do it like this, no errors, is enough for it to stop being optional, right? If you want to specify this has to be a text, but I still want it to be optional, you can always type the word optional, I believe here. Yeah, there you go. But in short, I think it's not a good idea to make things optional if you can avoid it. Good, so we just make it, we know that sheet name is some text, and now the question is, what do we want this sheet name to affect? Well, I think I would like this to affect firstly the spreadsheet, like which tab of my Excel file you're calling. So I'm going to replace it here. Maybe let me add a space. And I probably want to use that also as the name of my column. If you remember, when we unpivot everything, we decided to call this month and returns, but maybe I want either sales or returns or whatever. So now we have a function. It's right now called returns, but it's better to call this something more clear, like spreadsheet cleaner, whatever it is. And now let's get rid of the sales table for a moment. Now it's a moment to test this. Look what happens when I type, for example, sales and invoke it. I now get my sales table. It looks exactly like the way I want it. It's called invoke function, so I should probably just rename this object. But this is exactly what I wanted. And now let's just type the word returns. Okay, it also gives me, you see here product ID, returns. Here it gives me the customer ID and sales. So we just did it. We created a function that makes our work a lot more reusable. Now, if I try to call something that doesn't exist, so like doesn't exist, I'm gonna get an error. That's not a big deal really. But what matters is later on in the future, when I want to clean these spreadsheets, what I can just simply do is copy this whole function, maybe keep it safe in a Git repository or whatever solution it is that you guys have. And then whenever you need to do this again, you can simply click on new source, blank query, and then replace this blank query for our script, and that way we can call this function once again. I can type sales once again, invoke, and that's it. We went quite a long way in our series of videos. We went from how to fix this table to how to make our approach truly reusable. So I hope that for those of you following this series all the way from the beginning, that you learned quite a lot. And if you have any questions or any other type of video you would like me to make, please also let me know. I'm really curious what type of content you guys like the most. Thanks for watching.